Like if I was an NBA player, like we've been like out when we've been drinking before, and like like, could you imagine just like if you're Steph Curry or one of these guys, and literally like you might have like a little like 21-year-old kid like out there with a smartphone, and he might take like a video of you just like when you're in a drunken state just goofing off on somebody.
Yeah.
And now like Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless and like the whole world is talking about like this, this Steph Curry, Kyrie just video when they're just goofing off. So,
Sure.
I mean, isn't it kind of like ridiculous, like how dangerous social media can be? And like, if you're an athlete, like, why would you even leave the house? It just would kind of be awful somewhat in this kind of social media age to kind of be an athlete and be out and about.
Yeah, it's always tough when you got, social media always down your throat about something with, I'm sure Kyrie, I don't think he really did mean it, in a bad way. It's just, this is the bad timing with the camera, being on him and being able to, kind of put two and two together and say, oh, Kyrie and LeBron, especially with the whole LeBron-Kyrie feud now, Kyrie wanting a trade, and this just kind of just adds fuel to the fire to the whole situation. And I just hope Kyrie goes to a situation where he can be a leader of a team. I definitely feel with the whole Kyrie situation, he definitely wants to, be his own guy. He wants to run his own team. He definitely wants to be the star player. And, he kind of has been, in his entire career, basically LeBron's sidekick. They definitely won, one championship together,
Sure.
gone to multiple NBA Finals appearances. And he kind of just wants to write his own ticket now. And, that's what a lot of people do. And, especially guys who want to just move on to greater pastures. And, I guess my question to you is, going with the Harrison Barnes situation, how is this going to impact, the Kyrie situation, and how is it going to be able to, him going to a different team moving forward? And as my friend Spencer will come back to you really quickly, I just want to get my take on this really quickly. It's super important for Kyrie to be able to go to a situation where he can flourish in his skills. I just feel like with this whole, Derrick Rose going to Cleveland, it's kind of just a mere formality of the whole thing. So I just hopefully Kyrie goes to a situation where he can flourish in his skill set going forward.
Well, he will. The problem with Kyrie is like Kyrie, when he plays with LeBron James, he has to yield over half the possessions to LeBron James. And, like Kyrie has won a championship. So his goal is to kind of see like how special of a player can I be? Can I lead? Can I be the lone wolf and like lead a team on my own to a championship? And like his first year in Cleveland, he was a rookie, a lot of turbulence going on. There wasn't a ton of star power. Like Kevin Love wasn't on the team back then. JR, Shumpert. They didn't get all these free agents that could spread the floor. And I do think LeBron James is a top 3, top 2 player of all time. So obviously when you get him, you're going to have more wins. But is it necessarily more enjoyable to play basketball with LeBron James? And I look at Kyrie, and I don't really have a problem with any of what he's doing. I think that LeBron James at times is like takes himself too seriously. Like when people kid around about LeBron, I think LeBron kind of, gets triggered easily by like other people's, feelings about him. And he's always on social media, like subtweeting people. Like I think LeBron James is more thin-skinned than maybe like a Kobe or a Michael, in terms of greatest ever. And I just think like if LeBron James is just going to be so dramatic about like, Kyrie laughing about something, like LeBron James should want Kyrie back in Cleveland for this final year. And LeBron should also understand that if Kyrie wants to leave, he shouldn't threaten to like beat him up or whatever. You got to let the kid do what he wants in his career, especially LeBron James is an ambassador of the NBA. You got to let, young players eventually, even if they're on your own team, you got to let them, decide their future.
Yeah, and I think this is exactly what's coming to fruition. I feel like Kyrie, when he signed that big 5-year extension for $90 million, he didn't realize that LeBron was going to be coming, joining ship again with Cleveland. And Kyrie, I just feel like he was signing that deal knowing that he was going to be the star player. They were going to build his team around him, just like, in comparison to how the Steve Nash was, that franchise that was built for the Suns with Amari Stoudemire, Sean Marion, and a lot of those great guys playing for the Suns. So playing around a pick and roll type of player that Kyrie is, and he can come really great off of pick and rolls and screens. And I just feel like Kyrie's that type of player. And I'm really excited for where he's going to be going to next. And I feel like
that Suns team was so great, Shenk. Raja Bell, Channing Frye, Steve. I mean, Sean Marion, you mentioned him. I mean, I loved watching that team play. They just didn't have the star power to win.
Yeah, they always could never get over the hump and beating the Lakers, but they almost beat them in 2010, going into the Western Conference Finals. That was just
or how about the Mavericks in
away.
06? They had them in the conference finals too. And but Shenko, I wanted to talk about the NFL. And when I look at the NFC, I think that the Seattle Seahawks of 2013 were the scariest bunch of guys that you could possibly face, because that was when Sherman was in his prime, when Chancellor was younger, when Earl Thomas was healthy all the time. Who else did you have in the secondary along with, I think I'm missing somebody in the Legion of Boom. Maybe not, but Bobby Wagner was on that team, Irvin, they just, Cliff Averill. That was probably the peak of Seattle's powers, right?
Yeah.
And then and then remember, Green Bay missed the onside kick. The Green Bay had the NFC Championship. They let Seattle, come back, and Russell Wilson had one of the greatest quarters, maybe at quarterback as any has ever had, after playing so, atrocious throughout the Green Bay game. That Green Bay NFC Championship game, that could have been a Rodgers-Brady Super Bowl. And then, of course, you had the Lockett catch, the Jermaine Kearse catch, and the interception to Malcolm Butler. That interception maybe changed everything, Shake.
It really did. And the fact of the matter is, with that situation for Seattle, I feel like their time has come and gone. I know a lot of people will disagree with me, but I just feel that Russell Wilson's health is definitely a huge question mark going into this year and going forward. And if his body can be able to withstand the NFL hits on a daily basis, and obviously with the CTE coming out, I'm sure that's making a lot of people wonder, and a lot of the NFL greats are their careers are going to be cut short because of either this study or a lot of the CTE things that are coming out. And it's quite unfortunate for a lot of these players. I mean, we enjoy watching great NFL action on Sunday, watching the great players, the professionalism that these guys possess. Guys that we love seeing every day, Richard Sherman and Cliff Averill, like you've said, and there's so many guys I can name, Rodgers, Brady, Breeze. It's
Earl
it's
Thomas
really
was contemplating retirement, but the thing about NFL football is that for a lot of these guys, I mean, they probably couldn't imagine life without like being an NFL player, and they probably dream about playing professional football, just like you see the UFC is a very popular sport, and I know it's a contact sport, but I mean, I couldn't imagine a life I couldn't imagine life without NFL football. And could you imagine if football was taken away? It would affect so many communities in a negative way. Sure. Because football is the escape for a lot of people in impoverished in poor communities. Mm-hmm. We watch Last Chance U, and football, can, if you make it to the NFL, I mean, you help out your family. Look at Tariq McKinley of the Falcons. Do you remember him? He grew up in one of the more dangerous neighborhoods in the entire world. He brought a picture of his grandma on stage. Do you remember him?
Yeah.
Imagine football wasn't around for Tariq McKinley. I mean, he would maybe never get a chance to go to greener pastures.
Sure.
If not for football. So I think I still think there's going to be people playing football. I don't think football's going to go away.
I just hope it doesn't.
I do see, though, like you're saying, I think more players are going to retire, though, earlier from football now that the studies come out.
It's so imminent because when you watch all these studies, and it's just shortening players' careers, a lot of players can't remember things after they retire, especially at a later age. And
the game is safer. The game is safer than it was in the past, but now they're just so much more aware of the dangers of the game.
But the thing is, you can't stop the helmet hittings, clashing on every single play. There's always going to be that, and the constant head pounding that goes with the game. And
they're trying to clean it up with the refs and and
but the thing is, it's ruining the game of football because every time I'm watching a game on Sunday, it's really just always like, what's going to happen next? Like, it's nothing exciting.
You mean Bush League calls, you're saying?
Like, Bush League calls. A lot of these calls are, like, protecting the quarterback. And, obviously you want – and there's a lot of these ticky-tack calls are just ruining the game.
Sure.
Slowing the game down with instant replay.
So it's a lose-lose situation, basically.
But like I said,
if the refs don't protect the players, the refs get criticized. If the refs make shitty, crappy calls like pass interference where teams could score like on a 60-yard play, or a BS call where a defensive lineman who gets paid to hit the quarterback like literally can't see the quarterback throwing the ball and gets tacked 15 yards. His assistant coach will maybe cut him the next day.
Yep, and that's
it's a lose-lose situation.
It is a shame because, like you said, they're trying to, they're paid to, go after the quarterback and play the game of football. And, they got to sometimes hold up to make sure they don't hit the quarterback after the ball is thrown. So that's kind of like ruining the mentality of the game. And, I just feel bad for a lot of these defensive players. And they got to adjust on the fly. And, you're coming at somebody full speed. You can't just, like, stop on a dime and not hit somebody if you're, like, maybe 2 feet away and after the ball is released. It's so unfortunate, and the game has changed because of that.
I look at the NFL, and when you sign up to play, it's almost like going in the Army. Like you kind of sign for the risks of playing football, and I think that there's so many guys that understand. They understand that the risks of playing football, and luckily there have been guys that have had very physical careers in the NFL. And they've still been able to be head coaches, or John Lynch was a safety. He's now a general manager, and his brain seems to be working fine. It's not everybody that ultimately has awful lives after the game, but of course it's it's difficult, to analyze the CTE situation. But
absolutely,
I think that the refs are too hard on the game. Shenko, the first rule I would make is I don't like the pass interference calls.
Oh, yeah.
And the quarterback, the roughing the passer, there were a couple of dirty plays. Like, do you remember the Carson Palmer hit in the playoff game where he got hit like below the knees? Same with Tom Brady against the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
That's a dirty hit, but hitting a guy in the chest, or even like leading with when you're getting your hand in the helmet's face. I mean, I think that's safer than going low on a quarterback. You know what I'm trying to say.
It's always to the discretion of the referee, because every referee has different discretions on different calls. And I really think a suggestion to the NFL, I hope they do in the next couple of years. I really feel like they should just get rid of the spot foul calls for pass interference, because I feel like it's such a advantage for offensive players. They can, basically flop, and they could say, "Oh yeah, this is pass interference," and then it's just spot foul.
It's BS.
They definitely should change the rules so where it's like college. Either it's a 10 or 15 yards from the original spot.
Oh my gosh!
Not this 40 yards advancing the ball.
Teams lose
because of that.
Right. Like on 3rd and 20, I see so many teams just chuck up the ball like a dumb like 5-year-old can call that play. Mm-hmm. And then a guy will flop like you're saying, and then it's a touchdown. The ball's on the 1-yard line.
Yeah, and then they kick in.
It makes it so much easier. But here's my theory: because everybody plays fantasy football, they want the scoring to go higher.
That's also true, but
so they want their LeGarrette Blunts getting touchdowns.
Well, that's for fantasy people, but we're talking like real football, like real people who enjoy the game, who are coaches, the players.
I think it should be 15 yards. It should be 15 yards too, but when you look at the path of the NFL, you know what I was going to bring up? Chad Ochocinco, Chad Johnson, like. It's so hard to compare wide receiver numbers to wide receivers in the 90s and the early 2000s because it's really a passing league. Like you look at T.Y. Hilton, he might be the 20th best receiver in the league. He's going to have a lot more statistics than Chad Johnson, and Johnson was maybe a top 5 guy back in like the 2000s. So for the Hall of Fame for those guys in the 2000s, that was an age where it was a much more balanced offense.
Yes, absolutely.
And also the corners, Chad Johnson was even saying when he played in 2003, the corners could like maul you everywhere. Yeah, and now for the receivers, now it's like even Steve Smith saying it's so easy now because it's so much space, you know?
Yep.
So the elite wide receivers of the 2000s, like Steve, like Chad Johnson, Ike Hilliard, whatever, they would be having field days in this NFL.
They would be. I mean, like you said before, the game's changed and it's evolved, and there was always the bump and run in the 1970s, and then Mel Blount kind of just definitely changed the game for all those NFL gurus and nerds out there. I remember in the 70s how Mel Blount would always be, jamming guys at the line of scrimmage, and the 5-yard rule. And they changed the rule because of Mel Blount. Definitely do your research on that, because in America's game, where they showed that like the 5-yard rule was changed because of Mel Blount and that Steelers defense. The head smack, back in the 60s. But I can go on and on about.
Do you remember
how
Chris
the game's evolved,
Hamburglar? The Hamburglar on the Redskins, he would just launch his head at people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah, it's crazy how the game's
but
evolved.
to tell you the truth, like I did love like going back and looking at like Lawrence Taylor highlights.
Mm-hmm.
I do love the reckless abandon of some defensive players.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and you look at the NFL now, and a lot of Urlacher like big hits might not be allowed now. Ed Reed, whatever. But Shenko, I wanted to talk about the NFC landscape, though. We were talking about Seattle. So then you had the Seahawks kind of go on their run. I think the Seahawks fell apart because I think that Pete Carroll, kind of a corny head coach, like after a while, his whole shtick kind of got old with like Sherman and Earl Thomas. Mm-hmm. And then Russell Wilson, his ego grew. Now he's dating Sierra. Russell Wilson was a fourth-round pick. Right. He was when Russell Wilson came onto the scene with Matt Flynn, he was like a choir boy. He was very authentic. But now it seems like Russell Wilson has an ego from the outside. Doesn't it seem like he's pampered now in Seattle, and the defenders they have talked about how they resent Russell Wilson? Sherman and those boys.
Definitely something that how the game's evolved. And with Russell Wilson, he's just the type of guy. I mean, you're obviously going to protect your quarterback because that's your one of your big leaders in your football team. And for Russell Wilson to be able to go through a lot of adversity, especially being a Seattle Seahawk, and it's funny because remember the one day that the Eagles were supposed to get Russell Wilson and they passed up on him in the third round out of Wisconsin, and
it was just like Foles or Kevin Cobb or
I think it was for Cobb or another quarterback they take, but it was just a funny thing how
that's such a blessing.
Russell Wilson,
what a blessing for us,
a Philadelphia Eagle. But
my God, but
absolutely.
The Eagles fans are so ruthless that they just don't seem to get the breaks, like other franchises. But that brings me to another point. I was watching the NFL draft this year. And Davis Webb, I hold Davis Webb in higher regard. If I had a choice of Prescott, Cam, or Wentz, I would take Davis Webb in a heartbeat over all those.
There's
guys.
You'd be causing a lot of uproar with that statement.
No, I really, I firmly believe that, like the Peyton Manning, the Andrew Luck drop off. I believe Davis Webb is going to be a guy that's going to be a Hall of Famer, and I believe he's going to be incredible for the Giants. So
I hope you're right, man.
So and the Bills, I remember the Bills traded up in this draft, and I swear that they were going to take Davis Webb. And I didn't think the Giants were going to get Davis because they were at the 87th pick. Mm-hmm. And the Bills needed a quarterback, and a part of me was thinking, you know what? I know guys that are Bills fans. They've had such terrible fortune that if Davis falls to them and they're going to win championships, Super Bowls, I was like that. I'd rather him go there than Arizona or New Orleans. But then the Giants ended up taking him. The Giants took Evan Ingram and Wayne Gallman. I mean, look at this Giants offense, okay? Shepard, Gallman, B.J. Goodson, who, by the way, has been amazing in camp. He's going to be a middle linebacker now for this team. Okay?
Yeah, I love how he's been rising in the ranks. He's such a stud in that middle. He's going to take over, obviously for Herzlich. He's obviously good for special teams.
He's a fourth rounder. Then the Giants have J.T. Thomas and Casillas.
I love that.
Because one of them's going to not be able to play because then you have Devin Kennard.
Well, you could put J.T. Thomas in the outside. I feel like he can be really
right,
good
but you have
outside.
Kennard, B.J., and then, Casillas is undersized, but boy, Casillas was good last year.
He was. He's good as a middle linebacker. Can you imagine that tandem, Goodson and Casillas in the middle with Kennard? Oh, my God, on the outside. Oh, man.
And then J.T. Thomas. Yeah. You have
That's a good tandem right there.
Your linebackers are fantastic, right?
Oh, of course.
And then we have Dalvin Tomlinson, who I think is going to be even. He's younger, and I think he's even better than Hankins, who we liked. John Hankins. Mm-hmm. You have Snacks and Tomlinson. And
oh, yeah.
He's not even starting. It's JPP and Olivier Vernon.
I remember Okora. Yeah, he's kind of like a filler, if Pierre-Paul doesn't play or he definitely is
fantastic.
Filler,
he's young. He's undrafted. That's a home run pick. Let's list the Hall of Famers on this defense, okay? Landon has the potential if he doesn't get hurt. I think he's going to be a Hall of Fame guy.
Absolutely.
Vernon has a chance. He's had a very good career thus far. Now he lives in New York. He's going to have the spotlight on him. Could he be another Jason Taylor? It's possible. He had an amazing second half of the season.
He did.
Then you have a Pro Bowler, Janoris. Another Pro Bowler on your defense, okay? You have Eli Apple or Cromartie. I think Eli Apple's actually going to beat Cromartie this offseason.
You think so?
For the spot. What do you think?
I feel like the reason why I'm excited that they got this guy, Eli Apple, out of Ohio State 1 year out, because I feel like one of those corners is obviously going to part ways because they're going to have to pay somebody big bucks, and it's either going to be either Cromartie or Eli Apple.
I prefer Cromartie. Cromartie's a lot older. I prefer him to leave, though. He can't stay healthy.
Absolutely.
It's Eli Apple. It's Eli Apple.
But I like how Eli Apple has been, coming into fruition this past year, and he definitely has been playing in big-time spots. And, yeah, he might be a little bit rusty. He was a rookie, but I feel like he got some great quality experience at the cornerback position.
Very, very well last year.
I'm excited for him to get another opportunity.
And then guess who is healthy along with B.J. Goodson this year that we didn't really get to see last year is Boise State's Darian Thompson.
That's right. Now, I was hoping you were going to eventually say him, the free safety, because I'm very excited to see him out of LSU. And I just wish that he got on the field last year. I know he had a lot of injury problems, but Darian Thompson, oh boy, this is going to be one hell of a defense.
And then Andrew Adams even played well in mop-up duty, last year, and he's like a third stringer. So you look at the defensive line, the secondary that we mentioned. This is a top 3. I think this might be the best defensive football.
I think this is. I'm going to make a bold statement here. As a Giant, everybody should know this. Me being a Giants fan,
fans here.
It's the things that I haven't said this about my team in a long time, and I feel that the Giants on paper have had the best team in the past 10 years that I've seen them, because I just really feel that they have so much talent on this team right now to be able to muster another Eli Manning Super Bowl third ring. I mean, they got so many quality talent on defense. You just added Brandon Marshall. Sterling Shepard is a really good slot receiver. And, Gallman's a really good running back. And I'm just super excited for this team. And, their offensive line has gotten much better in the offseason, picking up some guys in the draft and some free agents. But I just really feel on paper that this team is going to be a sleeper pick this year. Watch out, in the NFC East. And a lot of people are kind of, knocking them, not really talking about them. But, as Giants fans know, we don't like to be talked about because, we're going to creep up on a lot of the experts, the NFL experts.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited for the season to get started, and they're going to surprise a lot of people.
I think there's been
year.
hype. I don't think they've been as slept on. I think that there is hype, but I'm going to go back to that huge statement. That was like a bombshell kind of news drop there, and I love that on our show on Rover Sports on Shenk.
I just think they got so much talent.
So
they haven't had
here's
in
the
those
thing.
past 10 years. They really haven't.
The interesting thing about, you mentioned 10 years. I mean, the Giants have won Lombardis in 2007 and 11. So if they lost to the Cowboys in 2007, right?
Okay.
We wouldn't be talking about that team. You're right. And then in 2011, if the 15-1 Packers beat the Giants,
we wouldn't be talking about them either again for the Super Bowl.
But I do want to. I'll let you talk, and then I definitely want to address your point. I definitely have some thoughts.
Well, the reason why I'm saying this is because the Giants, the past 10 years, 2007, they obviously weren't the best team on paper, but they played great when it mattered most. And, they obviously had some talent there, but I just feel like now, as we fast forward 10 years from there, I really feel like they have so much talent on paper, so much experience under their belt, that defense is, starting to become in fruition. The $200 million being spent in free agency, 2 years ago, is really, I think, is going to pay off this year. They finally had time to use that as chemistry to build up their confidence and momentum going forward. And watching them just gel as a team last year, they were the top 5 defense last year in points allowed, and they really did well against the football
the year before.
Exactly, so it was a huge improvement. So the sky is the limit for this team
but
this
the
year.
point about, I want to go back to 7
excited.
and 11. The Super Bowl teams. There's one reason reason why I definitely don't agree. The most important player on the field is not the same guy. In 2007, Eli was even before his prime, so he was able to move so much better. He was able to throw bombs to Plexico, to Amani Toomer. I mean, that Giants team, they won the Super Bowl. Then with Plexico Burress, if he didn't, go to prison, that team still went 13-3. The running game was incredible. Sure. Even Derek Ward came there, and the Giants were the best team in the NFC that year, and the Eagles just happened to go ahead and beat them that year. But they won the Super Bowl. They never have had a leader like Michael Strahan on that team.
That is true.
Okay, the chemistry of Strahan, of OCU Minora at that time. Was Tuck on that 7 team? Or
yes,
was
it
he
was.
He was maybe younger, okay? Minora and OC and Strahan were so mature, especially Michael was a legend. He's like a Ray Lewis that when the shit hits the fan, you want him in the foxhole fighting with you. Then you had Amani Toomer. To tell you the truth, this might not be a popular opinion, but guys like Toomers win over guys like Odell Beckham's, okay? The team is still so young. And then you look at Chase Blackburn, like just the leadership, Antonio Pierce, Ahmad Bradshaw, and Brandon Jacobs. And then the offensive line's better too. So that 07 team would probably, even in 11, Kareem McKenzie, Finn, O'Hara, and Pettigrew. That offensive line's better. My concern is Eric Flowers, Bobby Hart, and John Jerry's a starter on this team.
Yeah,
and then Justin Pugh is not even a shoo-in. Weston Richburg is a good center. I'm confident in his ability. But the running backs were better. If you get production out of Perkins and Gallman,
yes,
and Eric can play well, and then Bobby Hart or Fluker wins that position and can pass protect, I think the team will be fine. And then they really have to manage Eli Manning because the way he looked in that Eagles game was scary. He looked like a skeleton out there last year.
He did.
And that was, you cannot win with Eli looking like a skeleton.
Exactly. I mean, you need the talent to surround Eli with because he's the type of guy that he will not take over games. And I just feel that, he used to, maybe, especially I feel like, he's definitely past his prime, but I feel like he's still a quality quarterback now. And I just feel like he's not like an Aaron Rodgers type of quarterback where he can just take over games in a blink of an eye. He needs talent around him to be able to have success. And I feel like what they have this year, their sky is the limit. I'm super excited.
Amazing receiving
so much talent, receiving core, so good.
I think the Giants are easily in the NFC Championship discussion, easily Super Bowl discussion, okay? And now let's list the other teams that are there. You have I'll talk about Dallas first. I think Dallas, they still have talent on their team, and we're going to talk more about this, but I think Dallas, you look at Ezekiel this offseason, Dez hasn't been showing up. They were at the pinnacle of the NFL. It's so hard to go back-to-back seasons of balling out like that. So I think Dallas, they're set to decline. I really do. A lot of sophomore slumps. The league is going to catch on to Dak Prescott. You might love Dak Prescott, but if you just had a throwing contest, the guy's arm strength, like Ryan Mallett's a better arm strength guy than Dak. It's just Dak up here is great.
But Dak, but that's sometimes a guy that you need. Like look at Russell Wilson. He kind of reminds me of a Dak Prescott. He got the same size, same fire, same momentum, and I think
Russell
like
has a better
that.
arm than Dak. But
I like
Dak's arm's okay.
Sometimes you just need a good decision maker on the field to have success. I'd rather have Dak Prescott than your boy, who has a big arm, Bryce Petty, because I don't feel like Bryce Petty's going to be doing nothing for any team.
Okay, of course, I'm not going to prove Bryce isn't like in the Davis Webb. I think Davis Webb's trajectory. First of all, Bryce Petty is in he's on the Darfrakis of the NFL. He is in the worst neighborhood area to be developed, if that makes sense. Like, first of all, that's the worst franchise I think in the whole league to be a quarterback. They treat him like complete shit there in New York, Shenko. They are already talking about Sam Darnold being the quarterback. How dumb are they? They're going to start Josh McCown. When's the last time you started Josh McCown and anything has ever happened, okay?
Yeah.
Why are they starting McCown? You know what's going to happen with McCown? He's going to go 2-4, and you're going to miss the chance to evaluate, and then you're going to throw Hackenberg and Petty in, and then they're both going to get cut. I don't think Bryce is ever going to get an opportunity, okay? Todd Bowles doesn't believe in him. Todd Bowles doesn't even watch the offense.
I mean, if you
look at A.J. McCarron, there's a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL. It does matter where you're drafted. When you're drafted to Cincinnati or you're drafted to the Jets, you are immediately going to a place where quarterbacks go to die and fail.
Well, I just think that when you look at guys like Bryce Petty, I mean, he had the opportunities last year. He started a game, against the St. Louis Rams.
He
didn't
hurt.
really play too well. I mean, that's the thing.
He got hurt. I mean, he had flashes. He beat the Niners. Had some flashes last year.
That's what I meant. Yeah, they beat the Niners. But the thing is, you can't get injured, in the NFL or any type of football, because once you get hurt, then your odds of becoming an NFL starter
that
start
team was a
dwindling
dumpster
down
fire. Brandon
door.
Marshall. That team just quit on Bryce Petty. He needs to take over that team, and I just don't understand though why McCown's there. Like, say Shenko, say Josh McCown magically leads the Jets into the playoffs like Ryan Fitzpatrick, and the fans, the average football fan who might not see the future, like Jets fans wanted Fitzy back. Why?
For God knows why.
Why would you? So if McCown does great, McCown's not going to win a championship. Are you going to then sign McCown again to a long-term? What are you doing?
I don't see it.
What does McCown even have? There's no future with McCown.
I don't think there's any future with the quarterbacks that they have.
And
right
I'll
now.
bet
It's
almost
really,
any. Well, you don't know.
unsure.
Why do you know about Hackenberg or Petty? You don't know yet.
Yeah, they got to throw them into the fire and see what
Throw
they
him
can
into
do.
the fire, right? But with McCown, what's the point of having him there? Why did you sign him? And guess what? I guarantee Josh McCown's going to start, okay? And that's going to frustrate me to no end.
Well, the thing is, I feel like they brought him in, for veteran leadership to be able to teach these young guys, the veteran ropes of
he's going to win
the young.
He's going to win the job, and he's
quarterbacks
just going to take time away. The best way to learn is to actually drive. The best way I learned how to drive a car was I drove the car. And for Hackenberg and Petty, I feel so bad for these individuals. They're going to be backups for forever because the Jets are going to get Darnold or Josh Allen. They're going to be awful, and they're going to get a quarterback next year. And the coaching staff is just overlooking them. Just like, remember, Johnny Manziel went to Cleveland, and Mike Pettine didn't want Manziel, so McCown was there again, and McCown ruined Manziel's career. Same exact thing. So.
Absolutely.
Anyway, man, it was a heck of a podcast. I really enjoyed it. And we're going to be back, guys. I want your suggestions in the comments, guys, for things to talk about. Preseason's going to be underway, and Matt's going to be coming to the studio a lot. We're going to be live streaming. I want to do a live stream on Thursday, maybe, on Dallas Cowboys versus Cardinals, the first game. And then actually, I just, we're going to have a lot more storylines when actual games take place, like quarterback battles, battles in preseason. So I really thank you guys for joining us.
Absolutely, guys. I do appreciate you guys hanging out with us today, and, stay tuned.
Thanks, guys.